Here's everything I learned from cooking on this YouTube channel for the last 4 years. Sick! It's been 4 years already? God, I'm old. Anyway, to peel off an onion easily, just peel off the very first top layer like so. And you'll have your beautiful onion. Onions! They are also very interesting. Apparently, if for example you caramelize your onions and you want them extra sweet, you just cut your onion in half and cut it lengthwise, like so. Because the onion cells are not the same size in every direction, once you cut them like this, there's less damage to them. That way, your onions, you guessed it, well, they're sweeter. But now I don't actually need batons for this recipe.
How do we dice an onion? Boy, that's a big onion. Look at that. Woo!
So what you do is, again, you take half an onion, you cut it. Again, lengthwise, but not till the end, leaving equal space between cuts. Make a cut on the bottom, and if your onion is big, another cut on top, and then equal distance between the cuts, and you get yourself these beautiful, beautiful diced onions. Look at that. Beautiful. Now, garlic is one of my favorite aromatics in the kitchen. Garlic with that onion sizzling in the pan is just no sport. Anyway, to peel your garlic, don't use like any containers and shake it. I mean, you can, but just simply grab a big knife and crush the garlic with its flat end, like so. Now you can easily peel off your garlic. Look, it just took me 1 second. How quick was that? Also, the claw technique. Like you saw, I make this claw on the onion like so. That way, my fingers are a bit in front in the form of a claw. That way, I don't cut myself. The knife never touches my fingers. Now, I've been cutting garlic and onion all day long. My hands reek of garlic. They smell like a swamp.
Get out of my swamp.
I can't go anywhere. I can't go on a date. And soap it just won't cut it. So what do you do in this situation? Well, apparently, if you rub something like steel, or in my case, whatever metal this is, the garlic smell just goes away. They even sell lumps of steel in the shape of a soap just for this purpose. Now, another trick I just recently learned is freezing your tomato paste. See these cubes? That's tomato paste. Well, if you're like me and you don't buy tubes of this stuff, because sometimes it just happens that the jar of tomato paste is just way cheaper. I use half of it, make this beautiful vodka sauce, and then bam, the other half has mold on it.
What the fuck?
Well, this issue has haunted me for years, until somebody said, just put the paste in plastic wrap and freeze it. Also, frozen stuff is great. For example, I have this raspberry sorbet, right? Just grab a spoon and, God, the spoon is almost bending and I can't get anything out of it. Well, lucky you, just grab a fork. Because a fork has smaller surface area, it is way easier to get your ice cream, your sorbet, or whatever it is. Enjoy. Alrighty. Another tip I learned from watching cooking YouTubers. No! Is how to perfectly cook salmon fillet. If you want that crispy skin that is like a chip, basically, salty fish chip. All you have to do is use some parchment paper. I cut up my parchment paper into strips, place my salted salmon fillet. I'll cook the fillet to your liking, medium, rare, whatever you like. Also, another thing I learned from the fallow guys, that you do most of the cooking on the skin side, then flip it and do the rest on the meat side.
This is very similar to the method which a lot of chefs use, which is the 90 to 10 method, where you cook your skin 90% of the way on the skin side and then just flash the other side.
That way you get that perfect crispy skin. It gives it more texture. When the orange part is almost gone, then it's time to flip. You can just flip it onto the pan now. Look at that, crispy. So the meat is gonna continue to cook even when we take it off. And now serve it in a bowl next to some rice. Perfectly cooked salmon. Oh yeah. Listen to that. Great, now with our onions, garlic, and tomato paste ready, let's just go to the stovetop, shall we? A little bit of olive oil. Right, now another thing. This is not a pan, but it is fairly easy to flip pancakes or vegetables or sauce in a pan without any utensils. What you just do is this motion. You go up and back, up and back. Watch this. You see? Hey! Just take it. Hup, hup. This pan has two handles, but you do the same with one. You just hold it and do this motion like hup, hup. It takes a bit of practice. One pancake on the floor and you'll get it in no time. It's not that hard. And it looks impressive. Now another tip. When adding salt to your food, just oversalt it a little bit. Just add a little bit more salt than you think. Just a little bit. It goes a long way. Also, each salt is different. For example, kosher and non-kosher or whatever, sea salt. It is best to taste along when you cook. It needs more salt? Okay, let's add more salt. It's too much salt? Let's add more onions in this case. Also, another big tip that I've started doing, and I also heard from chefs, clean as you go. It is really a good tip when you start off.
My chef tip would be clean as you go. Quite often home cooks just dump everything in the sink and wait till afterwards they finish.
Just for example right now, the onions, they're sauteing, they're fine. I can go wash my dishes in the meantime. That way you don't overcrowd your big or small, in my case, kitchen. Also, another general knowledge tip. At first, I used to measure everything to the gram. I make pasta, I make a pie, whatever it is, I measure everything by the gram.
And we're at 10.7, so I'm just a little bit over.
How many grams of cream, tomatoes, or salt is even needed? But then I realized, and I heard that baking, not cooking, is like chemistry. You have to measure every ingredient in grams. Without enough baking powder, like the dough won't rise or whatever. But in cooking, it's just a suggestion. For example, right now, the recipe calls for 2 onions. In here is 2.5 onions. You know why? Because I love onions. Also, I don't have enough tomato paste, just FYI. Most things in cooking are just ratios, for example, like sauces and whatever, but that is way too advanced for me also. I will be learning about that in the future. Okay, now I will try to cook these onions until they almost start to caramelize. That's my secret weapon in this dish. Where did all the onion go? Look, it reduced. Also, another tip, when caramelizing onions, do it on very low heat over a long period of time. Same as with microwaves. Another general tip. A lot of people don't know how to use a microwave. If you want a more in-depth video, go check this one out. But basically, the lower the power on the microwave and the longer you cook it, more evenly throughout it will warm up. Most people just blast it on full power and expect their food to be heated equally. Yeah, just don't do that. Anyway, the onions have browned very nicely. Now, let's add our aromatics. 4 cloves of garlic. Here goes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Also, put your garlic at the very end if the recipe calls for it. You don't want burned garlic. Ah, the smell. God damn. Scrape it off. Scrape it off. Just cook it until it's fragrant. That's all you need. Now it's time for our frozen tomato paste. Goes 1 piece. Here's another one. Whoop. Look, in the meantime, while this is browning a little bit, let's fill a pot full of water. When boiling pasta or it's boiled potatoes or whatever, don't forget to salt your water like a lot. Look at this. See how much salt there is? Like Italians say, it has to be as salty as the sea. I'll even wash my hands in it. That way, for example, if you forget salt in food, it's not a big deal. Your pasta will be perfectly seasoned. You basically can't oversalt your pasta or potatoes in that matter, unless you try, of course. Put it on max heat and put the lid on top. Now, once the water is boiling, let's grab our pasta. And not just any pasta, but pasta extruded through a
bronze die.
In comparison to this one that has been extruded through probably a Teflon die. Not gonna name brands. Barilla. But as you can see, the pasta is smooth as hell. Now, if I, for example, take pasta extruded through a
bronze die,
you can see the surface is rough. See? Let's compare the two. Can you see the difference? Now, this good pasta, for example, it has more texture. So, what will happen is more sauce will stick to it. That way, I get more sauce with every bite. Then why is this pasta so cheap? Well, it is very quick to make, and that's why it's cheap. Now this pasta is usually more expensive because it takes way longer to make. But it's worth it. Now a lot of people, including me in the olden times, used to cook spaghetti wrong. Most people undercook one end of the spaghetti. Did you know that you can immediately bend your spaghetti and put it in the water? Yeah, like immediately. That way your spaghetti will cook evenly.
Alright, bro, is this good for you?
That's perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
No! There we go. Much better. Also, you know when chefs or people just say put some oil in the pasta so it doesn't stick? Well, don't, because it doesn't help and you waste oil. That's another tip. After you put it in, just mix and that's it. Now cook it until al dente, which is almost cooked fully, but not, with a strain that is uncooked in the middle. We do that because the rest of the way it's gonna cook in the sauce. Also, the lid helps the water to boil faster, and if you don't want water to spill, just put a wooden spoon like so. It somehow pops the bubbles before they overflow onto my beautiful, just clean stove. The sauce is almost ready. Now sometimes a recipe calls for alcohol. Just be careful, please. If you're just starting out and you don't want to burn the house down, which almost happened to me, get ready a towel by your hand. Don't put it under water. Just cover the flame and it will go out, and turn off every fire. Now, if you really want to try it and you have a lot of room, just pour in the alcohol and quickly light it with a torch. So that's what I'm gonna do. This is for demonstration purposes only. Let's get our vodka. Look, I just finished it. Pour in the alcohol and burn it. Like so. There we go. See, I didn't burn my wooden thing. And the alcohol just helps me scrape off all that stuff from the bottom. The sauce is almost ready. Just add cream of the crop, and let the ingredients know each other a little bit. So another tip, once your pasta is boiled, leave some of that starchy water in a cup in case this happens and you need to thin out your sauce, or you need to thicken your sauce because the water has a lot of starch in it. But yeah, I think the sauce is almost done. And I also forgot to add in the Parmesan. Should make it more creamy, I guess. I don't know, maybe more cheesy. See where our pasta is at. Whoa! Yeah, it's perfectly al dente. Well, except for spaghetti. So we're cooked. Anyway, grab our bowl. What I like to do is just pour some pasta water straight into the sauce. That way I don't need any cups. I'll go drain it, and now, look, the sauce is thin again. Now it's time for all of our pasta. Look at that. Well, don't look at the spaghetti, but yeah. Now last tip, maybe this one is just for me. Get a bigger bowl. I've had this issue for years and I think I'm not gonna fix it in the foreseeable future. I just don't see it happening. But if you think you got a big enough bowl, well, get a bigger one, because look at this. This is so hard to mix. Everything is spilling everywhere. So don't repeat mistakes that I did. I was young. I was dumb. Now I'm old and I'm still dumb. Have you ever needed to cut a herb and it was just painful? Every leaf is just uneven. I don't know what to do with it. You have to cut it like several times in every direction. Well, worry no more. There's an easier way. What you do with your herbs is you take them and roll them as tightly as you can. That's pretty hard with this one, but if you have like a basil leaf, it works miracles. You roll it as tightly as you can and you just cut it with a knife. Way easier and way more precise. Look at that. And I've already cut the entire herb. Then just pass it like so. And there you go. Have yourself some beautiful, beautiful herbs.
Okay, now just a few quick final tips. Did you know that silicone is very good at being non-stick? So when making a custard, beating eggs or whatever, use your silicone spatula to cleanly scrape every little last bit of that filling that you've been making for the past 4 hours. Don't waste good food. Now, avocados can be hard to peel sometimes. You cut it in half and the skin just starts tearing apart. The avocado starts mushing in your hand. What if I want those clean slices of avocado on my toast that I see on Instagram? Well, what you do is cut up your avocado into quarters. Then it is super easy to peel the skin off. Basically no effort.
But look at that. Our penne alla vodka, whatever it is. Now all that is left to do is plate it and taste it. Oh, but Jesus. And it's so easy to make. Somebody touch on my spaghetti. There we go, some boomer memes for you. That's a decently sized portion. Good. Now a little bit of leftover Parmesan. Beautiful. Some herbs. To make it pop.
Boom.
Now look at that. Hope you learned something new. There we go. That's almost all the tips and tricks I got for you. And all of them I learned because of this YouTube channel. Not including, of course, editing, video packaging, whatever. If you want to make this vodka sauce, just hop on over to my website at andrewscooking.com/recipes. Shameless plug. Thanks for watching. Peace.
What the fuck?